Okay, so this week I did lunges with 35 kilos, and 6 weeks ago, 20 kilos was killing me. That is a 75% increase. And get this same week, 3 days ago, I was in bed for 3 days, feeling like I wasn't making any progress. And so this video is about what's happening between those two things. How can we go from making almost double the progress that I was in my strength and feeling like I wasn't making any progress at all? And let me walk you through what actually happened. So here we are, week 1, I'm at 20 kilos, feeling like I'm just dying, right? Then slowly, after every couple of weeks or so, the trainer keeps adding more. He goes into 25, then he goes into 30. And then here we are in week 6 at 35 kilos. And every single time I would tell him, I can't do it. Don't keep adding. He's like, you can do it. You could do it. I'm going to keep adding. And then he gave me 35 kilos this week and I did it. And I could feel like my legs were not buckling. Like I held them and I was good. It was a strain, but it wasn't like death. It did not feel like the 20 kilos felt in week 1. And I want to really talk about how I felt because I did not feel like I was making any progress. And that's the reason I created this video today, because there's something very specific that is happening to you between week 3 and week 6. And it's called the latency effect that you really want to get to know. And the latency effect is something that James Clear also talks about in his book, Atomic Habits. And here it's just that we're getting better every single day, but we don't see it. Like it's just happening like underneath the surface. It's like ice melting, right? You have ice melting, you put it in a glass, you put some water in it and the ice is melting, but it's just ice cubes until it's gone. And that's exactly what's actually happening. So the ice, as it were, I was getting stronger every single week, but it was just not visible yet. And another way of thinking about this is just small efforts compounding over time. So you get 1% better and it just compounds. Eventually you get to some place where you're just like, wow, how did I even get here? And I want to talk you through how motivation starts. So if you're in a season of reinvention, it's important to know the psychology of change and what actually happens when you make a commitment to change your life. So in week 1, you're super excited, you're all in, you're just like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. In the second week, now the novelty started wearing off, but you're still committed, right? You're like, hey, I'm committed. This is the change. This is the thing. This is the year. And then comes week 3. So week 3, you're still doing the thing. You're still going. You're still consistent, but nothing's really happening. You can't quite see it. If you were an ice cube, you're still an ice cube in water. You're still a cube. It's like, how are we in week 3? And this ice cube hasn't melted yet. And this is why we start doing a cost-benefit analysis. And that just means that you're looking at, what is this thing costing you? Like, let's just use the gym as an analogy. You're going to the gym all the time. You're in pain. Your muscles are sore, but nothing's happening. And then you're like, well, is it even worth it? And then if you get to week 6, you don't have any markers to let you know that you're making progress, then you're like, how is this even worth it? Then he gets to the situation where you're in bed for 3 days thinking nothing's working. And this is where the latency effect just completely knocks so many people out. And all of the changes were happening, it's just that you couldn't see them. I'm going to talk about 3 things that really threat your progress when it comes to the latency effect. So first of all, it's unrealistic expectations. So here, what you're doing is you're comparing your results to someone else, or you're looking at, hey, you see 30-day transformation before and after, and you're just like, well, I am nowhere near there. I have not even moved a smidget based on what I can see. And that just gets demotivating, right? Then the second threat when it comes to your progress and when you're thinking about it in terms of the latency effect is the one thing, like just being super clear. What is the one thing that I want to achieve in this quarter that if I don't do anything else and I do this one thing, then my quarter is going to be a success, and being very clear on what that is. The reason why I say that is because what I've learned as I'm going through, and I'm about, just over halfway through the quarter, is the level of consistency, the level of effort that just doing one thing required of me. For example, with my one thing was for the YouTube channel, having 30 videos by the end of March. And there were little things like, for example, I never worked with an editor of the videos before. How do we work together? How do we get the thumbnails done? Like there were so many little things that contributed to this one thing that I hadn't accounted for. I had like 3 things. And if you see my other videos where I'm talking about all of these things, and you can see it over here, you can see how ambitious I was. And this was like, the first or the second of the year. And I was like, like, yeah. Coming in 6 weeks into the year, I'm like, no, we get one thing. And I have a bonus one as well, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay. The other thing that I would say, the third threat to your progress when it comes to the latency effect is metrics, right? Because you're going to have a lag. We're going to have that latency, that period where you can't see, don't really know what's happening. And it's really important, I learned, to just have very clear metrics and very clear numbers. And sometimes it's not just one number. And I think this is the thing that really blew me away. So for example, my biggest thing is with YouTube, it was the videos, right? Whatever needs to be done to get the videos out. That's pretty clear, pretty easy. The other one was with my health, which was interesting, my diet and my fitness goals, which was different because I had this goal of my weight, but I had to rethink it because my weight, if I'm just going on the scale, it's not really representative as well of the strength that I'm getting. Like I'm getting stronger and stronger. I can, lift heavier weights. I can do more. And this was just not represented. The reason why I was in bed for 3 days was because I would look at the weighing scale. Like this whole reinvention journey has been super emotional. And I've been snacking on mangoes and watermelon and all of that. Has a ton of sugar. But long story short, my weight has not moved a single pound. However, I'm lifting 75% of what I was lifting 6 weeks ago. That's a huge, huge difference, right? And not dying, right? I'm like, oh, I got this. There's some times where you have a metric that works, like the YouTube videos, and sometimes you have a metric that you have to look at two different ones to actually be measuring progress, because I was in bed because the scale hadn't moved, right? I'm giving myself such a hard time. And then I go to the gym and I'm like lifting 75% of the weight and I'm like, I'm crushing it. This is amazing. So it's also just when you don't have too many things going on, then you can start figuring out like, well, what is it for you? What are the metrics that are important based on what you're doing? And just to know that those 3 days in bed were not because I'd failed. It was just because I was looking at the wrong metrics. I was just over indexing on one and not really looking at all growth. And like even on YouTube, I am on track. I've got now 17 videos by the time I'm shooting this, and I have another 5 weeks to go. And I feel very confident that I can get all of the videos done. Okay, slightly off track, but I know I can get all of the videos done. And I've got a plan to do a lot of batching over the next few days so that I can catch up. And that feels really good to me. The antidote to the latency effect is what I would call the feedback pairing principle. And this is something that I made up because what it is you then choose one goal, which is super, super metrics driven, like a fitness one, where you could be tracking whether it's your weight, you could be tracking your body fat percentage, you could be tracking like the strength, how much you're lifting. You could also just be tracking your consistency. When I first did it, the first 4 weeks, honestly, all I was tracking was did I go or not. That was, anything else was a bonus. It was just did I go or not. And that's changed slightly. It's really changed slightly now. And so then have that, and then have another one that is more knowledge-based, more business-based, more creative-based, that could be giving like low, it would just take longer for you to see results in. And so that before that compounds, that would take a long time. So for example, I would say now, when I think about this pairing of a feedback principle, then that looks like for me, one would be my fitness goals and another one would be revenue, like what I'm doing and the actions that I'm taking to bring in my clients that I'd be looking at to make 8 to 10K a month. So that would be one, would be something that is just the feedback loop is really quick. There's no algorithm involved or anything like that. And you might be thinking, well, Frida, why didn't you bring in your YouTube one? And the reason why I did not bring in my YouTube one is that, so YouTube, I've got some goals as well around subscriber base, of course. I've got some goals around retention and all of that. But then some of the YouTube goals just are based on like an algorithm and all of these things. And I just wanted one goal that is based on none of that. All that is based on is what do I put in my mouth? How often do I go to the gym? And what do I lift, right? I have so much more control over that. And I can see the results compounding over time. So when something else, like all of the activities that I would do to bring in a new client, those will compound slower and I might not see the outcomes of it immediately. And so I want to be able to see my gym ones almost like straight away so that that belief system feeds my goal around bringing in a new client. The other thing that is an antidote to the latency effect is really the numbers. Like I cannot emphasize how much I thought I was clear And then when I started going in, because I have enough mental capacity to be really looking at, like, am I making progress? Like, what is objectively true? Like, I'm actually questioning what my mind is telling me a lot more than I used to. Then it's really made me see how important metrics are. And sometimes if it's a new project or it's something new that you're doing, then you might not be able to know all of the metrics and the ways that you want to be measuring progress like immediately. But over time, if you're, condensing that and you're focused on that one thing in the quarter, then all of these things start becoming more apparent. Here, I'm just going to close with just know that whatever it is, when you think about reinvention, you are going to go into the latency period and you just want to be thinking like, how can you set yourself up for success? How can you be looking at the metrics that you want to be looking at as an antidote to that? And what I talked about before, the pairing feedback principle that I'm realizing is just so important, so that when you do go into the latency, when you do experience the latency effect, you're not seeing the results coming in as quickly as you'd want them to be, then you're not thinking that things are over and you're not over indexing on one metric as well, so that you can actually track your progress. And with that, remember to hit the subscribe button and you can get the next video here.